Sincerest apologies to Mrs. Leeton and to everybody else affected by all of the trauma in Gatwick and in many other airports around Europe. The global challenges are significant. What the airport has done is seasonally it extends the opening hours for the airport from 8:45 to 9:30, and in 48 out of 61 occasions in May and June, the airport has extended it further up until 11 o'clock, up to 11 o'clock. But essentially having a flight leaving Ronaldsway at 9:05, which I think is what the scheduling is for that last departure to Gatwick, isn't exactly ideal, given it's already in the first extension. And I don't think we can really fault the willingness, the flexibility of all the staff at the airport, having gone beyond their normal duties on 48 out of 61 occasions in May and June. Having said that, though, we do need to have a fundamental review, and that's been ongoing for some months, if not years, in fact. And we need to come to a conclusion, and that's what I promise in coming months with the new airport director when he moves to the island in the middle of August, and also with all the other staff at the airport, but most importantly with airlines. We need to review how we operate air services in and out of the Isle of Man. We need to identify what are the critical routes, how many people are on those planes that go in and out of those critical routes, what size aircraft we need, whether we need completely open skies or something else, and we need to make sure that there are not sort of anti-competitive practices going on or anything that's stopping the best possible service for our island, because I'm a politician from our island, and our island has had for 30 years, number one, pet hate of living on the island against all the good things. It's off-island travel, particularly through the airlines, and we've got to deal with that.
So does that review then, will that take in the actual schedule itself? Because at the moment it seems that schedule isn't sustainable.
Exactly. So it was actually the last administration that started it post-COVID, and that review's concluded. We now need to work through the conclusions of that, and so airline services to the island are there on the table, and we now need to make decisions about how we charge for landing at the airport, where we direct the money that we can spend on this support. But most importantly, just as you say, we've got to link it in with how the airline operates, and that involves getting inside the working schedules of every member of staff there, particularly the critical ones, and working with them to actually put things better. Because I can tell you, people matter to the Department of Infrastructure. People matter to everybody working at the airport. I'm sure people matter to everybody at Gatwick Airport and on the airlines too. And it really wasn't a very satisfactory experience for Mrs. Leeton, and it wasn't a very satisfactory experience for the people affected for the hospital run on Monday morning, which was a consequence of something that happened with the other major airline that operates to the island. And it isn't very satisfactory all in all. More and more people are going on the steam packet at the moment because of the fact that they feel it's unreliable flying, and they're right. But let's do something about it, and that's what I promise.
Now, we know there were a number of factors coming into play on Sunday, one of them being staff shortage, your department told us yesterday. How short-staffed is the airport?
Well, it can cope. It's just when one contingency event happens on top of another contingency event, then things begin to break down. So, for instance, if somebody needs emergency transport from the hospital, and somebody's got to go in the middle of the night to help that means there's one less person for the next day, because the Civil Aviation Authority has rules. It's not just bullshit 1970s, I'm not doing my job, I need a tea break. It's actually
these are
civil
rules specifically
aviation
for air traffic controllers.
For air traffic controllers and many other critical functions, and that's what we've got to take into account. We've got a new airport director. He's going to have a big pile on his desk when he moves to the island mid-August. Looking forward to working with him. I know all the flexible and willing staff at the airport have been trying to do everything they possibly can to help it. Department for Enterprise is working with the Department of Infrastructure to complete these reviews that are already underway, and something needs to happen, and it will happen. We'll do everything we can to try to make the situation manageable, because the whole future of the island in many ways depends on having reliable air services.
And just finally, do you worry about the reputational damage this does to the island?
Yes.
When we see passengers coming out with things like this?
Yes, and that's why, and it's passengers like Mrs. Leeton who made a very human case for the people. It's also business people. It's also people travelling to Liverpool and Manchester and elsewhere for hospital appointments. Yes, it really matters. It's the whole future of the island. And as I said, for 30 years we've known that the number one problem about living on the island is off-island air travel. We need to fix it. And there are great things about living on the island, and the sincerest apologies to Mrs. Leeton and everybody else affected. It's work in hand.